Chapter 18, text 62. Tam Eva Sharanam Gaccha. Tam Eva Sharanam Gaccha. Sarva Bhavena Bharata. Sarva Bhavena Bharata. Tat Prasadat Param Shantim. Tat Prasadat Param Shantim. Stanam Prapsyasi Shashvatam. Stanam Prapshatnam. Stanam Prapsasi Shashvatam. It's tricky, the two S's in Prapsyasi are without any marks, Prasyasi, and then the two S's in Shashvatam both have marks, so Shashvatam is tricky. Tam Eva Sharanam Gaccha. Sarva Bhavena Bharata. Tat Prasadat Param Shantim. Stanam Prapsyasi Shashvatam. Tam Eva Sharanam Gaccha. Sarva Bhavena Bharata. Tat Prasadat Param Shantim. Stanam Prapsyasi Shashvatam. Is that two or three? Ready to chant?
One more.
One more? Okay. Tam Eva Sharanam Gaccha. Sarva Bhavena Bharata. Tat Prasadat Param Shantim. Stanam Prapsyasi Shashvatam. Let's chant.
Tam Eva Sharanam Gaccha. Sarva Bhavena Bharata. Tat Prasadat Param Shantim. Stanam Prapsyasi Shashvatam.
Tameva Sharanam Gaccha. Sarva Bhavena Bharata. Tat Prasadat Param Shantim. Stanam Prapsyasi Shashvatam.
Tameva Saranam Gaccha. Sarva Bhavena Bharata. Tat Prasadat Param Shantam. Stanam Prapsyasi Shashvatam.
shashvatam.
Anybody else?
Tamevam saranam gacha.
Tamevam saranam gacha.
Sarva bhavena bharata.
Bhavena bharata.
Tat prasadam param santi.
Tat prasadat param santim.
Dhanam prapsyasi sashvatam.
Dhanam prapsyashvatam.
Tameva saranam gacha.
Tameva saranam gacha.
Sarva bhavena bharata.
Sarva bhavena bharata.
Tat prasadam param santi.
Tat prasadat param santim.
Dhanam prapsyasi sashvatam.
Dhanam prapsyashvatam.
Okay, word meanings. Tam, unto him.
Unto him.
Eva,
Eva.
certainly.
Certainly.
Sharanam gachcha.
Saranam gachcha.
Surrender.
Surrender.
Sarvabhavena.
Sarvabhavena.
In all respects.
In all respects.
Bharata.
Bharata.
O son of Bharata.
O son of Bharata.
Tat prasadat.
Tat prasadat.
By his grace.
By his grace.
Param.
Param.
Transcendental.
Transcendental.
Shantim.
Shantim.
Peace.
Peace.
Sthanam.
Sthanam.
The abode.
The abode.
Prapsyasi.
Prapsyasi.
You will get.
You
You
will
will
get.
get.
Shashvatam.
Shashvatam.
Eternal.
Eternal.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada.
O sign of Bharata, surrender unto him utterly. By his grace you will attain transcendental peace and the supreme and eternal abode. Please repeat. O sign of Bharata,
O sign of Bharata.
surrender unto him utterly.
Surrender unto him utterly.
By his grace
By his
you will
grace.
attain transcendental peace
You will attain transcendental peace.
and the supreme and eternal abode.
And the supreme and eternal abode.
Purport. A living entity should therefore surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart, and that will relieve him from all kinds of miseries of this material existence. By such surrender, not only will one be released from all miseries in this life, but at the end he will reach the Supreme God. The transcendental world is described in the Vedic literature, Rig Veda 1:22-20, as Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam. Since all of creation is the kingdom of God, everything material is actually spiritual. But Paramam Padam specifically refers to the eternal abode, which is called the spiritual sky or Vaikuntha. In the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, Sarvasya Chaham Hridi Sanidishtaha. The Lord is seated in everyone's heart. So this recommendation that one should surrender unto the Supersoul sitting within means that one should surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Krishna has already been accepted by Arjuna as the Supreme. He was accepted in the 10th chapter as Param Brahma Param Dhamma. Arjuna has accepted Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the supreme abode of all living entities, not only because of his personal experience, but also because of the evidence of great authorities like Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasa. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Now some of you may know that I like this section of the 18th chapter because of the discussion of confidential, more confidential, and most confidential knowledge. But today I'm talking about this because I want to examine the word surrender. Kind of a scary word. Although I'm sort of preaching to the choir today, I think. But, and so anyways, surrender is scary. Well, surrender is scary. We grew up with the idea of surrender is like if you go to war and, you know, you're a soldier and your side is losing and there's no escape and you're forced to surrender. And what do? They aim a gun at you, they hurry up, they make you walk in a group, they don't let you go anywhere else, they just keep control of you, then they tie you up or throw you in a, whatever they do in a truck or something and take you to a prison. Because you're surrendered. They make you march for a long time under a gun. And you can't do what you want to do anymore. You're just controlled. You lost your freedom. You lost your free will. Everything's taken from you. So this is our idea of surrender. So it's a scary word. Another word connected to this is obedience. I guess I'll talk about that a little bit too. But we're also scared of obedience. What if we have to obey and we don't get free will anymore? So that's also a scary word. Kind of a bad word to people out in the world. Bad. Surrender and obedience. Ooh. Don't tell them that's what we do in the Hare Krishna movement. Because then they won't come. So, but what is this surrender? The real surrender here is because we're already prisoners. We already don't have freedom of movement. We just think we do, but we're chained to a body. And our body is full of senses, and we have karma, and we have desires, and from association with the modes of nature. We have the modes of nature, we have our karma, we have our conditioning, we have the tendencies built into our body, that the different types, bodily types wanting to do different things, and so on. We're not that free. And we have a little independence, but we don't even know about it. Unless somebody explains spiritual knowledge to us, we just want freedom to follow our senses, basically. And the freedom to act according to the modes, which feels good at the time. It's, well, what is this? Passion. It's how's it go? Tastes like, how's it go? It's like sugar candy in the beginning and like bitter poison in the end, something like that. And so if you follow like that, that's nectar in the beginning, then poison in the end. If you try to surrender spiritually, it tastes like poison in the beginning and it's nectar in the end. So that's because we have to go against this conditioning to please our senses. That we've always had this, gone for this immediate nectar, and okay, poison comes later. Why is the poison coming? I don't know. Why me? And it's all related, but we don't know. So here we are in the Hare Krishna movement. We're trying to spread this knowledge to people, and they're kind of resistant. And the first thing they don't want to hear is about surrendering. And so, but we need to understand in our own selves too. We need to be solid on this. That the kind of surrender that is good is surrender that's done by intelligence and free will, not the surrender that's forced on you and you got to do it or you get shot. So this is a different kind of surrender from what we fear. Likewise, obedience, same thing. Same thing. It's obedience that's done with intelligence and knowledge and free will. It's for our own good. So I have all these thoughts, but just they come up in out of order probably. Okay, I had this image, this example of our dog. Okay, we have a little dog. She came to us out of the woods. She's a hound dog. She's not so little, but she's a hound dog. And is used to ranging free. She likes to run. She likes to range free. She likes to go for miles hunting things and get lost and stuff. So she came to us that way. And so because she got attached to us, we didn't want to tie her up or anything because she kept coming back. And but gradually we became responsible for her. She discovered she could come up to the temple and hang around, and then we didn't want the dog to be a nuisance. So eventually she would do this exaggerated begging, please be nice to me, please. She would make a face like that, and she didn't know how funny it looked. She'd like that, begging and crawling, groveling, and all this exaggerated stuff to make sure that we still liked her. And as soon as the leash was put on her, she was a normal dog. Immediately, she would become normal. And so now, this free-ranging hound dog that loves to run is ending up always on the leash because she always goes down the road. We have to go find her. And so she's on the leash all the time now. She's happy, strangely, because she's surrendered to somebody who cares. So she feels secure. So we may think we like our material freedom to go where we want, where the dangers are, where we can get lost and everything. But when we are connected where we're supposed to be, we get more peacefulness. All the agitation starts calming down. So that was one just in that little illustration I thought of for this. Let's see, I want to read to, the first time surrender is used in the Bhagavad Gita is in chapter 2, where Arjuna decides to surrender to Krishna. So it's 2:7. And Arjuna says, Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of miserly weakness. In this condition I am asking you to tell me for certain what is best for me. Now I am your disciple. I have a leash on me, right? And a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So then the purport, Prabhupada is talking a lot about there's perplexities and we have to go to a spiritual master. So anyway, I kind of want to focus on that. Surrender. Again, Arjuna chose to surrender to Krishna. And then what does he do when Krishna explains things? Sometimes he argues. Sometimes he doesn't get it. He complains that it's too hard to understand. Or he questions that this is going to be too hard. I'm not going to be able to do this. So he gives Krishna a little trouble, you might say, because he wants to make sure he understands. Are you hear a word?
No, sorry.
Oh, so, okay, I thought somebody was suggesting. So Arjuna had given Krishna, you might say, a little bit of trouble, because he really wants to understand right. Because he wants to surrender by intelligence, by knowledge, by understanding, by free will. He doesn't want to just say, Krishna said, so I don't know if I can understand exactly what that means, but now I got to do it because I surrendered to him, now I got to do it, but I don't get it. He doesn't want to do like that. He wants to do it by intelligence. In the spiritual world also, everybody is surrendered to Krishna by intelligence, by free will. So in the spiritual world, there's no loss of free will. Some people are really scared that if they go there, they'll make the same mistake again and come back down here. So they want to say there's no free will up there. Once you're there, you're there. You got that security net around you. You can't escape. But that's not true. You could if you wanted to. It's like if there's a restaurant that cooks terrible food. You go there once, you're never going again, right? Nobody ever goes there again. Nobody ever returns to that restaurant because it tastes terrible. Not because there's some kind of guard protecting that you can't possibly go there. No, because nobody goes there because nobody wants to, because it tastes terrible. So nobody comes back to this world because it tastes terrible. Not because you're not allowed once you go to the spiritual world. There's always free will, otherwise how can there be love? So this surrender is a surrender of love, and what we're surrendering is that rebellion, that rebellious spirit, where we're up there, we have the idea, totally free of any modes of nature, no influence, no bad karma, nothing like that, totally free will. I think I'd like to be like Krishna instead of serving him. I want to be the center. Totally free will decision. So we come down here, and we're trapped. We're not free. We're trapped in the body with all the karma and all the senses and modes and everything, influenced up, down, and sideways, and confused in Maya, illusion. And by this knowledge, by the spiritual master explaining to us, the spiritual master doesn't push any magic buttons for us. The spiritual master gives us knowledge so that we can choose. It's in the end of the Bhagavad Gita, back to 18, in the conclusion, way down here. I'll just read a few verses in a row. I'll start with the one. Now, the one I'm reading today, surrender unto him utterly. I forgot to explain. That is the super soul, because the verses up to that was describing how the super soul. I'll read it. Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. So now Krishna tells Arjuna, surrender unto him. It's interesting because this is where we get into confidential and more confidential and most confidential knowledge, because in the Sanskrit those terms are there. And so this time it was, well, confidential knowledge is knowledge that we're soul, that there's spirit, that there's matter and spirit, like that. And more confidential knowledge goes into that their super soul is in our heart, trying to tell us how to practice, how to go on this path back to Godhead. So surrender unto him. Krishna's not saying here, surrender unto me. There's a little subtle difference. Surrender unto him, because then he says, thus I have explained to you knowledge still more confidential, meaning super soul. Deliberate on this fully, and then do what you wish to do. Because you are now he's talking to me, my very dear friend, I am speaking to you, my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your homage unto me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. Abandon all varieties of religion, and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear. So he says, surrender unto Super Soul, and he says, surrender unto me. Prabhupada says surrendering to Super Soul means surrendering to Krishna. Of course, we're progressing in stages. This is called spiritual advancement. So we surrender. One more thing I want to say. It said what you wish to do, right? Back in 1863. This I've explained to you, knowledge still more confidential. Deliberate on this fully and then do what you wish to do. He's been saying surrender, surrender, surrender. Arjuna said, I'm the soul surrendered unto you. Now Krishna says, do what you wish. It's almost like, now I can do what I want? No, because Krishna's told you what's best, and you should do it. But you have free choice. You don't have to. You can choose, but that choosing is your surrender. And Arjuna now has full knowledge of why it's beneficial to surrender to this desire of Krishna that Arjuna should fight. So he decided he's going to surrender. And so there's this process of devotional service. There are 9 kinds of, 9 kinds also. There are 9 stages of spiritual advancement. And we progress by obeying as we go. Obeying and surrendering progressively more and more. So he starts out with Shraddha, faith. We see that there's something there. So immediately we start to surrender a little, but we give up our free time to go do something else, and we go check it out. And we do some, maybe we chant with the Harinam or something like that, and we could have just gone on to our business. And so some surrender starts with easy stuff at first, because you have a little faith. And then that faith leads you to want to hang out with the devotees and more surrender. And then the devotees are going to start telling you should do like this, and the truth is like this. You start surrendering your ideas. Oh, I'm a soul. What? There's reincarnation? And you start surrendering your ideas a little bit. And you agree to read a book, and you chant, maybe you agree to come to the temple when you could have done something else. So on, this is all progressive surrender. And then we have Bhajan Kriya, which is, as far as I've been able to understand, it seems like that is the specific duty of the Diksha Guru. It may also help in other stages and other ways, but the specific duty that's unique to the Diksha Guru is to get initiated. And in order to be initiated, you got to practice up to be on the level. You got to chant your 16 rounds and follow 4 regs, and you got to vow to do that. And you're vowing to somebody who expects you to do this. It's not going to be just in your imagination. Yeah, I once decided I would do it, and well, I'm getting weak. You told somebody you would do it, and that person is an example of doing it. So you don't want to embarrass yourself by failing. And you have to learn things like etiquette and standard behavior and deity service procedures and these kind of things you have to learn. So this is like the visible parts of the path of devotional service. So you get trained up in that way. And then the invisible parts, you got to get purified. That comes next. And the Diksha Guru may or may not be involved in that. Maybe Shiksha Gurus or whatever. But impurities come up one by one, and you pray for help, or you try to solve it and try to get rid of it, whichever kind of impurity it is, that how your proper response would be for effectiveness. And so these are stages of advancement until you get to Nishta, where you've gotten yourself so free, you're so trained up in proper behavior and freed from so many disturbing things inside, they're almost all gone. So therefore you're not subjected so much to the lower modes. They're not affecting you. And you're pretty stationed in the mode of goodness, but, more than that. And you are 24/7, you're pretty steady in your internal and external devotional service. So that's a hard stage to achieve, and that's only the middle one. There's 4 more that are getting more esoteric to us. We can understand them intellectually. They are progressive surrender. As you keep progressively surrendering, chanting more and more deeply, understanding the books more and more deeply, doing your service more deeply, then you progress. And there's ruchi, where you develop this overwhelming relishment of your devotional service, and then asakti, where you are attached now instead of just to your devotional service, and you get the deep attachment to the person you're serving. That's where it becomes more real to you, serving Krishna. And you start to know, I understand at that stage, you start to know what your Siddhadeha is, your eternal, your what do you call it, constitutional position in the spiritual world is. You start to have a sense of what that is. And then, Baba, you start to get the emotions of it, and Prema, you're completely free of the last drop of Anartha. You're totally full love of Krishna, overwhelmingly in love with Krishna. That's Prema, which is the goal. So all of this is done by surrender and obedience, by intelligence, by free will choice, that this is what you want. So in the beginning it may taste like poison, but in the end it's nectar. And so we have to help people in the beginning. They have to do things they're not used to. So we have to make it easy as possible. The first easy step, so they can start to surrender. But immediately you feel something. First time I went to a devotee event, the person who made me a devotee took me to a preaching event. There was a big art fair and they had a book table. And so I said, okay, I want to do something to help. I didn't know what I was talking about. They said, okay, take these back to Godheads and distribute them. So I stood there where the people were walking by and I tried to give them, and everybody walked by. So I came back and complained, nobody's taking them. So I said, go like this. He demonstrated, he said, why don't you just take one? And he kind of thrust it at a person. So I went back around and I tried that. I said that to somebody, why don't you just take it? And he took it and he opened it up and started reading. I got this good feeling. Because I had done a little bit of surrender, and I got a good feeling that I'd never had before. New kind of feeling. So I still remember it. So I think that's everything I thought of to say about surrender. So surrender and obedience. So I'll stop there and if there's any discussion or questions or something.
It seemed like you described an awful lot of things in the second stage. I mean, all that actually happened in that second stage.
What second stage?
You were talking about the stages of surrender, and you said Bhajan-kriya.
No, that's third, yeah.
Oh, that was third.
Yeah.
What was second?
Second is you associate with the devotees, and they start telling you stuff, yeah.
Okay.
You start getting to be you start learning how to do things from the devotees.
But then that third stage with that initiation, so that was like... That was a lot of things happening there.
But when you think about it, those things are all at a certain point in your life. And once you've learned the etiquette and the rules and regulations, the deity service, you made your vows, you got your system so you get your rounds done hopefully, and and like that, you got it established, and you know how to dress and how to act and how to talk to devotees. Then there's a certain point of your stage of your life, and after that it is established. It's not ongoing. And there's a whole bunch right there. There is a whole bunch right there that you have to learn. And as I read the description, it's you take initiation and instructions from a spiritual master. And what do they instruct? Well, they can't really instruct you about Nishtha or Ruchi or something at this point. They can't really instruct you very much about even Bhajan-kriya, because things come up. They're all individual. Things come up as they come up. So, but most of the time there's a lot of practical instructions. Act like this, do like this, dress like this, talk like this. Don't you think that's kind of true? And I've often wondered what is the special thing about Diksha, because I couldn't really figure it out from reading Prabhupada's books, because he says that Shiksha and Diksha have they do different things, but they mean the same. So then what's the different things? So the only thing I can come up with specifically Diksha is these external or visible, they're not just external, but they're the visible parts of being a devotee, where you get trained up right. That's the best I can, that seems like that's what the Diksha gurus are uniquely for, that although they can also help you with all the other stages, but so can the Shiksha gurus. So the Diksha gurus, what's unique about them? That's best I can figure, that's what I think it is. That make sense?
So you're saying the unique thing is at the point of Bhajan-kriya, that's described as taking initiation?
But yeah, Bhajan-kriya means to take initiation. This one, let's see, 4. Where am I going to find that first? Let's see, 4:10. It's in this paragraph where in 4:10 in the purport, the second half of the purport is these two verses from the what do you call it? Bhakti Rasa Rita Sindhu about the stages of advancement. So he says, in the beginning one must have a preliminary desire for self-realization. This will bring one to the stage of trying to associate with persons who are spiritually elevated, sadhu sangha. And then in the next stage one becomes initiated by an elevated spiritual master, and under his instruction the neophyte devotee begins the process of devotional service. So that's what we get this, as neophytes, we get this instruction. We become acting like devotees, looking and acting like devotees and knowing the right procedures and all that. And then you have to qualify for it, and you have to keep your vows. So it lasts your whole life, but and it's a big thing, it's not a momentary thing, but that time of changes in your life, that where all that's happening, is really kind of condensed. Anybody else? Anything? Is that right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. There's somebody back there that's got their hand up.
Oh, you can't. You have to holler. I can't really see. Oh, okay. I can't really see.
I've been reading that the main instruction is to chant Hare Krishna and keep your mind on God at all times.
Yeah.
And that through this, all other things will follow naturally.
That's true. That is the main thing. The other things help it. But if it wasn't important to get initiation, it's not absolutely required. For example, George Harrison didn't get initiated. On Prabhupada's advice, he did not get initiated, because Prabhupada wanted him to preach the way he was, because he was so effective. So, but if it wasn't pretty important as a support for most of us, then Prabhupada wouldn't have established the institution of getting initiated. So it's important. But if you don't do it, well, you can still make spiritual progress, but it helps a lot. It helps a lot. Does that relate to what you're saying?
In the same place that I read that chanting Hare Krishna and keeping your mind on God at all times, and of course it follows that one way to keep your mind at all times is to chant regularly and often and daily. But also, alongside getting initiated, they speak about just following the sastras, and following what is revealed in, the prescribed scriptures. And so, either it seems that if you're not ready for initiation, that just following the instructions that can be found in the revealed scriptures, that this is sufficient to set one on the path of understanding and coming closer to God and increasing your devotional service.
Yeah, of course it's sufficient to set you on the path, and the path may vary in different parts of the path may vary in different lengths for different persons, because everybody is unique. So, and like I say, if you don't get formal initiation, who can say that you absolutely have not got the mercy? But maybe you have. But all these things are given to us as help. Like we have temples, we have deities. You don't have to worship the deities either. And it helps us. The main thing is to chant, but the deities are there to give us that structure that help. All these things are given to us to help us. Yogendra?
In the Prabhupada Nectar of Devotion, which is a condensed English version of Goswami talking about the Sindhu, these 9 stages of sadhana bhakti, he describes in 2 stages. He says this sadhana bhakti, or practice of devotional service, may be divided into 2 parts. The first part is called service according to regulative principles. One has to follow these different regulative principles by the order of the spiritual master, or on the strength of the authoritative scriptures, and there can be no question or refusal. That is called vaidhi, or regulated. One has to do it without argument. Another part of sadhana bhakti is called raganuga. Raganuga refers to the point at which, by following the regulative principles, one becomes a little more attached to Krishna and executes devotional service out of natural love. For example, a person engaged in devotional service may be ordered to rise early in the morning and offer arti, which is a form of deity worship. In the beginning, by the order of his spiritual master, one rises early in the morning and offers arti. But when he develops real attachment, when he gets this attachment, he automatically tries to decorate the deity and prepare different kinds of dresses and thinks of different plans to execute his devotional service nicely. Although it is within the category of practice, this offering of loving service is spontaneous. So the practice of devotional service, sadhana bhakti, can be divided into two parts, namely regulative and spontaneous. So the regulative may be, when we're taking initiation, you take a vow. And the vow is because if you're going to get to the spontaneous stage, you have to be able to do those things. Otherwise, there are different names for those who are pseudo-devotees. Or they're devotees who have some faith. Krishna. They have some faith, but they can't follow the principles. They were never able to observe those vows, and consequently, especially Prabhupada, or our disciplic succession, especially calls them pseudo-devotees, when they attempt to imitate great devotees, but yet they still have bad habits.
Yeah, thank you. And you can't really skip. Like we perhaps don't realize how exalted it is, a position to become a pure devotee and go back to Godhead. We don't realize how deeply conditioned we are. We have to take some training. We have to allow others to help us. It's still a voluntary surrender by intelligence. I choose to obey them and let them make me do things that are really hard for me that I maybe wouldn't want to do. And I might complain a little along the way, but I choose to let them tell me to do this because I know that I'm going to be trained up to do something better. I know that I'm going to be higher. So it's not, you can't take shortcuts really. There's no shortcuts. There may be people who don't take formal initiation for some reason, but they are, I know, there's always that situation of somebody like, what's his name, George Harrison. And Prabhupada said, don't take formal initiation. But Prabhupada said that. Prabhupada was his guru. And he wanted him to preach the way he was. I don't know, yeah.
Another wonderful example of that is the gentleman Peter Borwash, who
tennis
is
player,
a motivational speaker and author. And Peter really liked Prabhupada and had association with Prabhupada. And he serves the movement nicely even today, and so does his daughter. But back in the day when Prabhupada was there, he was forming his motivational school, and Prabhupada even made comments, oh, y'all are even more strict than us. Because Peter, if somebody broke the principles one time, they were dismissed from the school and they could never do it. Initially, that school was a school that taught professional tennis players, or anyone tennis, but up to professionals. And if somebody couldn't follow the principles laid down as a teacher, then they were dismissed, and they couldn't, again, get a job there. So Prabhupada, he made the comment, oh, you are more strict than us. But Peter wanted to take initiation, but he had a problem. Peter could only chant 8 rounds in a day. He only had an hour's time to chant. He was such a busy man, extremely busy person. I mean, very strict, serious, busy person, even to this day. But he could only chant 8 rounds. And Srila Prabhupada would not give him initiation. He made an example of him. He said, no, you have to chant 16. But Peter was very honest. Said, I can't do that, Prabhupada. I only have an hour. You can only chant 8 rounds. So Prabhupada would not give initiation.
That's odd. Wow. So, but he didn't ever act like an initiated person, nor did George Harrison.
But he served. He served. He serves ISKCON. He's very humble about his position.
He didn't present himself as an initiated person.
Right.
Yeah. So he didn't present himself as initiated, nor did George Harrison present himself as initiated. We can't cheat like that. We can't cut corners like that. So We have to obey the system. George Harrison and Peter Bulwer said we're obeying Prabhupada according to the rules. They were obeying him. So we have to obey. If we want to make spiritual advancement, there has to be obedience. There has to be surrender.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
But I just want to re-emphasize what Prabhu Yogendra just quoted from the scriptures. We practice a philosophy, we practice a religion that is personalist. We believe in a person. We say that God is the supreme person. He is the personality of God. So, if we talk about that there is no need to worship the deities, what are we talking about? It's a contradiction. If we believe that God is a person, we have to accept that he has a form, and we have been instructed by the parampara, by the scriptures, that we have to accept the Archa Vigraha. That means that Krishna, God, decided by his infinite wisdom and mercy to accept a form made of wood, marble, sand, stone, anything, so we can practice how to personally and directly serve him. And the only way, according to the scriptures and the sadhus, the only way we can make a spiritual advancement is by the association with the devotees, and also by taking the shelter of a spiritual master. Otherwise, we can be going around for life after life and after life, and continue being a friend of Krishna, but not a devotee of Krishna. And in the case of these two devotees, the fact that they did not take initiation, that proves that they accept Prabhupada as their guru, and they accept his instruction. Because you are so famous, because you are so busy, because your life is not ready to live a monastic life as an initiated devotee, don't be initiated. And what they did, they follow. They say, okay, I follow you, my guru, your instructions. I won't get initiated. So still, we are talking about relationship with the guru, and we are talking about personal relationship with the form of the guru.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Okay.
In relation to what Yogendra was quoting from, I was reading that, and I believe they note the regulative principle as being this chanting of Hare Krishna. And then thereafter they talk about the different varieties of the neophyte devotees and how people come to Krishna, and how when we meet pure devotees, this will help us to advance, just by their mercy. And these varieties of the neophyte devotees are those that come in the material qualities, those that want money, those that want knowledge, those that are distressed and want freedom from this distress. And then they talk about the wise man who comes to Krishna, that he is the most beloved of Krishna because he comes already with an intellect that it comes from love, and that this understanding of love is great. And that these are neophyte devotees, and these are different varieties of neophyte devotees, but they can advance in stages through, in their devotional service, they can advance by having the association of pure devotees, people that can execute their service in a pure devotional way, and that through the mercy of these devotees, that we can come to that. I was actually surprised, and I haven't gotten to any part where they discuss the 4 regulative principles, but they discuss how the most important regulative principle is to chant the holy name of the Lord.
Yeah, that's the most essential one, but to chant the holy name of the Lord by word, you have to follow the other regulative principles too, and to get the benefit of the association of pure devotees, you have to inquire submissively and render service. You have to, that submission means, again, obedience and surrender. So you can't just a lot of people met Prabhupada and didn't become devotees. So, he had his travels throughout the world and met people, and they did not all become devotees just because they met him. So those who decided to render service and inquire submissively. And then submissively means you do what they say. So that means if he gives us a whole bunch of regulative principles to support our chanting, the regular principles, then if we want to actually make advancement, we have to follow all the regulative principles that he gives us. So we can't, again, we can't skip these other parts and still make as much advancement. We have to accept the whole thing. Not that everybody has to be identical and do 100% of every single instruction Prabhupada gave, because there's certain basic instructions that apply to everybody and certain ones that apply to specific types of people that are not for everybody. Obviously if the instructions for how to be a leader don't apply to people who are not leaders like that. But there are certain instructions that apply to everybody, that if you want to be a disciple of Prabhupada, you have to follow those instructions, because he said that this is what will help you, and he's trying to help. We're not just going to soak up Prabhupada's presence and say, I'm making advancement. It's following and obeying that changes us. We're in this material world. We've been here for a long time. The way we are, we've been following our senses and our mind and everything, and there has to be some changes that don't feel good at first. That we are, we have to accept and try something new. Who wants to change? You want to stay the way you are and justify it. But it requires changes, because otherwise people like us, so how we have been in the material world, don't fit in the spiritual world. We don't go. We want to go there. We have to accept the things that will change us. Sometimes it tastes like poison in the beginning and becomes like nectar eventually. But sometimes you have to accept that. Did I see a hand? Oh, okay. It's always hard to see people's hands against the window glare and everything, and so I sometimes have to holler if I don't want hands up. Okay, I guess that's everything. Okay, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Thank you all very much for your contributions.